we're here on a mission. Call it in, call it in, call it in.
You are listening to Navigating Towards the New Earth with Mel M. Rubin. Okay, so welcome to today's episode. Today we're going to be discussing mental health, and I have no doubt that this will trigger some people because we're so used to giving our power away to other things, right? I feel like this because I'm depressed, I'm this way because I'm anxious, and because of this and because of that. And I'm not saying that it's not true, that it's not there, that it's not valid. However, we get to choose to take our power back from this. So my view on mental health is that we have full control over our mentality and our mental health, and whether we have depression or anxiety. And I understand that there are people out there that struggle with bipolar, schizophrenia, and other forms of mental issues, should we say. And I have no experience when it comes to these parts of it. I speak from experience from depression and anxiety. So this is where I speak from experience here, right? So when it comes to bipolar or schizophrenia or anything like that, I can't really speak to that. However, the way that I see bipolar and schizophrenia, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like, we've normalized something being wrong with people that struggle with bipolar or schizophrenia. And like ADHD, I'll go into in just a moment, and ADD. And bear in mind that when I do speak of these, this is just my opinion, this is my viewpoint. I have no medical background or anything. I'm simply talking from my own experience with depression and anxiety. And I truly believe as well, I haven't been diagnosed, but I truly believe that I do struggle with ADHD, although I don't think that this is something that we're born with, that there's anything wrong with us when it comes to ADHD. It's all something wrong with the system. And I believe this with every form of mental health issue, because really and truly, we have full control over our health in every aspect, right? And we have full control in healing ourselves and bringing our bodies and our brains back to baseline, back to how it's supposed to be on a level, right? Now, when I first started my journey in 2017, I was depressed and I was anxious, and I struggled with depression for a very long while, probably since about the age of 13 or 14, and I've been suicidal, I've self-harmed. I've not only self-harmed in the form of cutting myself, I've self-harmed in the form of the kinds of things that I would fuel my body with. So I would regularly binge on drink and drugs, and I would fuel my body with all of the shit food. I didn't care what I was fueling myself with. All of the things. I just really didn't look after myself because I didn't care, right? And it wasn't of no fault of my own. It wasn't as if there was anything wrong with me per se, although I was struggling with depression and anxiety, and although I wasn't happy, and I really did not like myself, and I did not like my life, and I didn't realize how much I just hated the reality that I was in, because everyone else was living a similar reality. So I just thought that this was normal, right? I thought that this was just life. However, once I started my online business journey and I dove into the personal development world, and I started really going within to understand my internal reality and heal all of the emotional traumas that I had experienced throughout my life, and subsequently spiritually ascend through working on every aspect of my health, be it my physical health, my mental health, my emotional health, I basically healed myself of the depression and the anxiety that I was experiencing and that I had experienced for years. And the way that I see depression and anxiety is something that we are so in full control of when it comes to creating better for ourselves. But what I've found in my own experience, and also what I've observed of the majority of the population, is when we are living very unconsciously and unaware of the power that we have, we tend to give our power away. And it's not our fault that we give our power away, because we've been trained to give our power away from as soon as we can remember, since we were children. Whenever we questioned anything, we would be told that, oh, that's just the way it is. Listen to your elders and listen to authority and all of that stuff. And we weren't really able to question things. And then we went into school and it was just the way it was. Like questioning what they were teaching us was like, they didn't like it, right? So going through school, we was put into boxes, we was told to be a certain way. So we were really trained from a very young age to give our power away to absolutely everything and everyone else but ourselves. And we weren't taught how to hold on to our power and cultivate our power and truly understand the magnificence it is that we are as an individual and the true beauty and brilliance that we hold within us. And I share what I share because I am here to be a guiding light for my people that resonate with me and my energy and my word and my message. And I truly understand why I've been through everything that I've been through, so I can really connect to the people that are currently going through what I've been through. And I've been through a fair amount, right? I've been bullied, I've been emotionally abused in relationships, I've been through narcissistic relationships. I didn't feel seen and heard growing up by my family or anyone for that matter. I've struggled with betrayal, with lies, with people I've struggled with a lot that I can really empathize with people. And I was very much stuck in the matrix up until about the age of 25. And I was a slave to the system. I was in corporate banking and I was selling my soul for a salary. And I've always been very aspirational and I've always been very, very good at what I do. And I've always had natural talent for the things that I have tended to show interest in, and I'm a very quick learner. However, because I was following these constructs of societal and cultural and familial expectations, I wasn't following what I truly wanted. I was following what I thought I wanted because everyone and everything else wanted it for me. So I ended up and because I wasn't taught how to love myself and validate myself and respect myself, I was looking for love in all of the wrong places, and I was looking for love and validation outside of myself. So I ended up getting in all of these toxic relationships, intimate relationships with men that didn't appreciate, understand, or respect me for the divine goddess that I am, right? So because I wasn't getting that appreciation and respect from them, naturally, I wasn't giving it to myself. And really and truly, because initially I wasn't giving it to myself, I wasn't calling it in from other people. And what I've come to learn through my journey is that our external reality, relationships included, are merely a reflection of our internal reality. So if we're finding that our external reality isn't the way that we desire it to be, and if we're finding that our relationships are not how we desire them to be, then it's really important that we take that time to be really honest and open and transparent with ourselves and hold ourselves accountable for what gets to be cleaned up within us. And this isn't just about relationships. This can be about life, about money, about business. Absolutely everything to do with our life is a redirection, an external kind of mirror back to what's going on internally. So I found this throughout my journey. And when I first started my journey, like I said, I was depressed and anxious and I was struggling with mental health. And this is why I have the viewpoint of mental health, because I've been able to completely transform my mental health by being very honest with myself, by holding myself accountable, and by choosing to take my power back rather than giving my power away to everyone and everything else but myself. So before, what I would do is I would blame my partner for the way that I felt, blame my parents, my family, my school, where I was born, the situation that I was in, my job. I would blame everything else about how I felt and the situation that I was in rather than myself. And by doing that, I was disempowering myself and I was giving my power away. And then once I started to truly take my power back and say, you know what, like, I am in this situation and it may not necessarily be my fault that I have been hurt or been betrayed or I was born in this particular situation or any of that stuff. However, I chose to stay, or I chose to go, or I chose to do this. I didn't put a gun to anyone's head, and I chose to basically disempower myself. So once I started taking my power back and started looking at my life and started to refine my life and myself in the way that I desired it to be, and I started cutting out all of the toxicities, and I started to work on myself in a sense of leveling up and moving towards the person that I am required and that I was required to become to create this life that I'm currently living now, I really started to transform things for myself mentally. And the more I started showing up for myself, and the more I started showing myself that, you know what, I can do hard things. You know what, as scary as that was, and as much as I was pushing myself out of my comfort zone, I did it, and I'm so proud of myself. So through the process of me showing up for myself, and through the process of me achieving everything it is that I desired, I started to gain confidence within myself, and I started to expand on my power. And the more honest that I was with myself in respects to the situation that I was in, as well as the part that I played in that situation that wasn't necessarily great towards myself and towards other people, the quicker I was able to start transforming things. Now, as humans, we hold the whole of the universe within us. We hold light, we hold dark, we hold good, we hold bad. And typically, what our ego likes us to do is, or what our ego likes to view us as, is perfect, that we don't make mistakes and it's all their fault and it's not our fault, when in actual fact, yes, we do make mistakes. In actual fact, there is toxicities within us. In actual fact, darkness does come out of us all the time, right? And if we're not conscious about the darkness that's within us, if we're not conscious in the way that we feel, and if we're not conscious about all of these dense and negative energies and emotions that are within us, what happens is that unconsciously comes out of us in some which way or another, whether that be in our relationships or like in road rage or in a shop towards a stranger. That will unconsciously come out. So it's really important that we learn about our own psychology and that we become a master of ourselves and our internal reality, and that we learn absolutely everything that we can about ourselves in every which way. And this is a journey, this isn't overnight. However, the more we come to know ourselves, the stronger and surer that we become within ourselves, and the more we're able to master our thoughts. It's very, very, very normal for our mind and our ego to naturally go towards the negative thinking. However, we can master that and bring that back. We are the creators of our reality. And we create our own personal reality with our thinking. And the reason that that happens is because our thoughts create our feelings, which is our emotions, which is energy in motion, and that subsequently creates a certain vibration which lands us in a certain frequency, and the frequency that we are vibrating on is what attracts everything into our life. So if we're thinking negatively, and if we are focusing on the negatives, and if we're focusing on what we don't want, and if we're focusing on everything that's going wrong in our lives, then what we're going to do is we are going to keep attracting that into our reality, because that's our focus. Think about when you have wanted to buy something. There was a game that I used to play when I was younger called Yellow Beetle, or Yellow Mini, or Yellow Car, right? We actually mixed it all. It was Mini, Beetle and Yellow Car, and then if we saw a Yellow Beetle or a Yellow Mini, it would be like 2 bashes. Essentially, like when you're traveling in a car, if you don't know what that game is when you saw a yellow car or a Mini or a Beetle, you'd be like, Beetle, Yellow Car, Yellow Mini, and move that way. So when you're playing this game, you see these cars everywhere, or just say you want to buy a certain car, you begin to see that car everywhere. Or just say you want to buy a certain pair of shoes, like some Nikes, you see people wearing them everywhere, and that's because our focus is on it, and we're creating that reality for ourselves because that's what we're focusing on. And there is like deeper science into this, and I have read about the science. I can't think about I can't relay it off of the tip of my tongue. However, you can look into this yourself. Like, don't believe everything that I have to say for gospel. Go and do your own independent research. However, once I started learning about this, I really started to apply this. So the first 2 books that I read on my journey, which were absolute life changers for me, were The Magic by Rhonda Byrne and A Happy Pocket Full of Money by David Cameron Gacaldi, I think his name is. And I read them in conjunction with one another, and I was doing the practices of gratitude every single day. And that's when I started learning about the laws of the universe. So as you already know, we have the law of gravity, and as much as we cannot see it or necessarily feel it per se, it's working its magic because we can walk around and we're on the floor and we're not floating, right? So that's the same with the rest of the laws of the universe, and there are 12 laws of the universe, and the first 2 laws of the universe that I learned about were the law of vibration and the law of attraction. It was actually the law of attraction first, and then in conjunction with the law of vibration. Now, they only really work in conjunction with one another, because the law of attraction basically says you get what you think, you get what you put out, right? But if you are thinking, I want abundance around me, right? But you don't feel abundant and you feel in lack, and that thought doesn't match with your vibration, then you're not going to attract that into your life. So when you start saying affirmations, for instance, and when you start incorporating that into your life, that's when you start attracting it. And this is why gratitude's so powerful, because once you apply gratitude into your life for everything that you have, as well as everything that you're creating, you get into that vibrational frequency of the gratitude for already having it, and then you start attracting it into your life, and then it becomes a really fun game. And this is how I really like to look at life, is it being a game, because that's all it is. It's like the reality that we're living is simply a projection from our mind, because our mind is what creates our reality in conjunction with our frequency. And once I really started learning this, I really started to become a master of myself and my mind, and reprogramming my mind. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't necessarily easy at first. It's a daily, consistent action that we get to take for ourselves in the creation of the reality it is that we want. However, what's the alternative? Because if we don't do anything about it, then we're not going to get any different. So my true view of mental health is that we're in full control over this. And typically we give our power away because we've been taught to give our power away. However, it's time for us as people to take our power back. It's time for us as people to learn everything that we possibly can about being a human in this physical reality. And it's my true belief, this may resonate with you, this may not. What I would encourage you to do is, if it doesn't resonate with you, find your own beliefs and your own way of moving through life, and something for you to believe in, like a higher power for you to believe in. For me, it started with the universe, and the more I started learning, the more it transformed and the more I landed into my own truth. And we all have our own truth. Just because I have my own truth, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is the one truth. We all have our own truth, and I really encourage you to find your own in what works for you, in a way in which you can really move through this reality in a way that is easy and fun and blissful for you. So it's my view that we are souls having a human experience, and our soul resides in our heart, and we can hear our soul and our intuitive guidance once we really start to learn how to connect and listen to it. Now, our mind is simply a tool, a supercomputer, in which we're able to create the reality it is that we desire, and our body is a vehicle in which we're able to move through this physical and 3D reality. So once we learn how to master our mind and connect to our body and the energy of our body, then we can start really playing and really creating everything it is that we desire. And if we zoom out and like really look at things for what they are with the system that we've been born into, there's so many different facets of the system that have sought to disempower us. So they don't teach us how to function as humans in the very best way, as we go through the schooling system. They don't teach us how to love ourselves. They don't teach us how to understand ourselves. They don't even teach us to healthily communicate, because it's my true belief that they want us to have disempowering and toxic relationships. If you have a look at the media, like toxic relationships and cheating, and even in music, like it's normalized. Trauma is normalized, and like looking picture perfect with these models that are photoshopped and edited, that's normalized. So of course we're going to feel disempowered. Of course we're going to not feel good enough. And it's my true belief that that is that was their aim, because they want to keep us small, they want to keep us stuck, they want to keep us low vibrational. And this is why they're putting toxins and chemicals and hormones in our food and in our water, because they seek to keep us unhealthy. They seek to keep us vibrating low, because if our vessel is full of toxins and if it's unhealthy and we're full of disease, then it's really hard for us to connect to our power and our innate guidance and really come back to source, which is infinite intelligence and like the one and the universe. Because we're connected to an infinite intelligence. We are connected to source, to God. However you feel like explaining that. I call it the universe. I've only recently just become comfortable in saying God, and it's my true belief that we are all God. We're simply a fractal and an individuated expression of God, and we're all very, very powerful in our own right, and we can all create the reality it is that we desire. And a huge part of really guiding us away from that is keeping us unhealthy, which is a huge part of mental health. And you know, the way that we view life and the things that we experience as the human that we are is what makes us truly magical and unique and powerful. So whatever you feel like you're like struggling with, should we say, we get to turn our pain into power, right? And as a soul having a human experience, we get to learn, like we choose the lessons that we get to learn so we can grow and ascend. So understand that you are where you are because as a soul you chose this. And once you empower yourself enough to know that for yourself, then you really get to look at it like, well, what do I get to learn here and how do I get to grow here? It's getting a bit dark where I'm sitting and this is video, so I'm going to move into the living area. So you really get to look at it that way, and you really get to empower yourself in that way, so you can create everything it is that you desire, right? Now, this subject that I'm talking about here is mental health, right? And I digress, but there's different facets to this, and there's reasons in which there's things that have led us to this. Like me personally, and I believe as well a lot of the times, it's like people are depressed because they're not living their truth. They don't understand who it is that they are. They're not living a purposeful life, one in which enriches them and fulfills them and makes them feel good about forward movement. I know that was typically the case for me. It's simply eat, sleep, work, in my case, rave, repeat, and it's over and over and over again, and there's not any kind of fulfillment within that, right? So of course you're going to be depressed because it's the same old shit every single day, right? And we came to this planet to live in our bliss, in excitement, in full happiness. So if we're just sitting in a cubicle every day, like working for the man who doesn't even know our names, and we're just a number for someone, and we're trading all of our time for money, and we're not able to live our lives in exactly the way that we desire, then of course we're going to be depressed. And I truly believe that the majority of us are depressed because we're not living a life true to ourselves, because we've been trained in a way to worry about what people think, and we've been told to fit in this box and be this way and wear masks and all of that bullshit. When once we actually start to take off the masks, and once we actually start to step out of the boxes that have been constructed for us, and we start to make our own box and decorate our box in our own unique way, then things really start to become magical. And that's certainly been the journey for myself. And then when it comes to anxiety, like typically as well, depression stems to the past, where we're ruminating on stories from the past, and where we just keep going through these stories, and like we can't change the past. All we can do is learn from it, right? And all we can do is grow from it and let go of any negative energies that are still residing in our bodies because of it, because negative emotions do get trapped within our bodies, and when we relive certain experiences is because that emotion is trapped in our body. So it's really important that we learn how to do the work so we can let go and feel these emotions, because we've typically been taught to suppress emotions within our bodies, because negative emotions are bad, but they're not bad, they're not good, they just are, and their guidance, right? So we really get to tune in to what our emotions mean, and we really get to work on letting go of any residual and stuck emotions within us so we can move forward in the way that we desire to. Because the more we hold on to within our physical body, the more our physical body is matter, and it's dense and it's heavy, and the harder it is for us to move forward in the way in which we desire. So once we really start to reprogram our mind to not focus on the past in a bad way, and rather look at the past in a way in which we get to learn from it, and we get to understand that our past is what shaped us, it's what's made us who we are. And once we start to learn how to reframe the way we look at our past in various different ways, and once we start to look at our past with a form of gratitude for what's happened to us, and once we learn how to forgive not only other people but also, and most importantly, ourselves, then we can move forward in a much better way for ourselves with our mind more clearer. And then when we have a look at anxiety is us thinking too much about the future and putting stories about the future that are typically the worst case scenario, and that we're worried about the future. And then when it comes to that, like I mentioned earlier, we are the creators of our reality. So if we're focusing on what it is that we're worried about, that we don't want, and we're getting anxious about it, that vibration is giving that off. So therefore we're going to attract it, and that's going to prove, should we say, our thinking. So if we just decide that I don't want to be anxious anymore. And what's the best way to stop being anxious? The best way to stop being anxious is to merely live in the present moment, to understand what it is that you desire moving forward, to really come to terms with the future it is that you wish to create, and focus on that, focus on what it is that you wish to create, and focus on the future that you're moving towards rather than what's the worst that could happen. And also focusing on the present moment and focusing on being grateful for everything it is that you have within your present moment. And the more that you train your mind in this way, the more that you rewire the neural pathways in your mind, and the easier it gets for you when it comes to forward movement with your thinking. And like I said, it's not an overnight thing, and it takes time and it takes energy and it takes effort. However, what's the alternative? The alternative is feeling the same, is getting the same results in your life, and, you know, worst comes to worst, pumping yourselves with pharmaceuticals that are just going to give you negative side effects and make you worse and give you more health issues, because that's the whole point of the pharmaceutical industry, is to keep you a customer. They profit off of our illness. So it's important that we learn ways in which we can heal ourselves, because we're that powerful. We can heal ourselves. It's simply learning how to become the master of ourselves and of our internal reality, so we can create everything it is that we desire. Now, if we have a look at ADHD, now I keep saying to myself, I'm sure I've got ADHD, and I'm seeing ADHD pop up everywhere. And I was actually having a conversation with my beloved the other day about this, and then something popped up on my timeline from a trauma specialist. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but essentially ADHD, to me, it's curable. And the way that I look at ADHD personally is that we have such a short attention span, and we've not learned how to master our internal reality and our mind, and we're surrounded by so much noise and distraction that, of course, we've got attention deficit, because everything's taking our attention and we've not learned how to shut ourselves off and away from it. However, once we start mastering the muscle, and this is a muscle, right? The muscle of focus, the muscle of happiness, the muscle of putting our focus towards what it is that we want, the muscle of expanding our attention span, right? And it's the same with ADHD, ADD, the way that I look at it anyway. It's simply we haven't learned how to become a master of our reality in that sense. And we're allowing all of these notifications on our phone to take our mind off of things. And I believe the more that we practice staying focused, and the more that we practice minimizing the distractions around us, the more focused that we're going to be, and the less it's going to be like attention deficit disorder. And my beloved actually said to me that the TV came out, something along these lines, I can't remember the exact dates, but the TV was actually introduced to the public in the 50s, and ADHD was first diagnosed in the 60s, I think he said, and then it became normalized in the 80s. So if you have a look at this technology and taking our attention away from the analog, which is nature and which is getting out into places, and putting our attention on screens and on these different kinds of lights that flicker, then it's going to make our minds go a little bit crazy. Now, again, I'm not an expert with this, and look into it yourself. And I am actually going to do a post about this with the way he explained it, because he explained it really well. And once I do that post, I'm going to put it in the show notes for sure. So keep an eye out for that. I'll post it on my Instagram within the next couple of days of me posting this. That's going to give me a kick up the arse to do that. But essentially, we can cure ourselves is the whole point I'm getting to, whether it be our mental health, our physical health, but especially our mental health. And we must really learn how to become the masters of our internal reality and of our mental health, because our mental health is what our mentality and our way of thinking and our mind is what creates our reality. So if we're focusing on all of the shit, if we're focusing on all of the negative stories, then that's what we're going to create for ourselves. And I know with you being in my field, and I know with you listening to me, you wish to create an amazing reality for yourself. You wish to create an amazing life. You wish to be powerful and strong and sure and confident in everything it is that is you. So what you get to do is you get to take back your power, and you get to put steps in place in which you work on your mind and your energy every day, because they're the most important things that we can work on, because our mind and our energy is what creates our reality, because essentially it's what creates that frequency, and it's also what enables us to move and take the action towards what it is that we desire, as well as call in the intuitive guidance in what we desire towards going after it, right? So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it as someone that has experienced depression and anxiety. I'm not saying that it's not real, it's very real. However, it's there as guidance to tell us that there is something wrong within our lives and that we get to change things. So if you're currently going through this, then this is your message and this is your sign that you get to take back your power and change things for yourself, because nothing's going to change unless something changes. We've been taught, especially as females, that someone's going to come and save us. Like, no one's going to come and save us. The only person that is going to save ourselves is ourselves. And the sooner we come to that realization, then we really get to empower ourselves towards creating everything it is that we desire, and ultimately creating a better future for ourselves and for our family, and most importantly for our children. This is how we create the new world, by really taking our power back. We've been led away from our power. We've been giving our power away to whoever for however long, and this really is not sustainable. And this is why we're so very unhappy and angry and unhealthy and depressed and anxious and like full of disease, because we have given our power away and blindly believed everyone and everything else but ourselves. We've literally turned our backs away from ourselves and away from our intuitive guidance and away from the guidance of our bodies, because we've not been taught how powerful and how real and how amazing the guidance that we receive from ourselves is. So it's time that we learn. It's time that we unlearn everything that is incorrect for us, that has not created what it is that we desire, and it's time that we learn everything that is right for us and everything that is right for our forward movement. And the way that we learn is by learning from people who have created everything it is that we desire and who have embodied everything it is that we desire, and most importantly, people who we energetically align with. That's a huge part, and you're going to know if you feel energetically aligned to someone because you can feel it. You can feel it in your chest. It feels expansive, it feels big, it may feel scary, but it feels right there, right? So really follow that intuition. When I first started my journey, I didn't. Like, the first person that I invested money into to work with, I believed what my mind was telling me because it looked good on the tin, but my stomach was like, oh no, he's not right for you. But I went anyway because of my mind, because we've been trained to move through this reality with only our mind. But I'm here to tell you that your body is so very smart. So listen to your body, listen to your guidance, and take action, even when it's scary. I love you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you on the next episode.
Know that you're not